So, imagine for a second that you found a message. Not one that's carved in stone, but one that's hidden in the very math of language itself. Well, today, we're diving deep into a claim that says exactly that, the discovery of a structured code inside ancient texts, a pattern that the source claims has a near zero chance of just being an accident.
And this is the message it supposedly found. Now here's the kicker. According to the source material, this sentence wasn't written by a person. Nope, it's the result of a massive data analysis, a coherent message that they claim just emerged on its own from a sea of numbers. Which, of course, brings us to the big question. How in the world is that even possible? How could a computer, just by crunching the numbers in ancient scriptures and a single person's name, spit out a complete, coherent statement like that? We're going to break down the exact methodology, the data, and all the claims behind it.
All right, so to even begin to understand how any of this could happen, we have to start with the system it's all built on. And it's an idea that's rooted in a very ancient language of numbers.
It all starts with something called gematria. It's this ancient practice where letters in alphabets like Hebrew and Greek also double as their numbers. This means every single word or name or phrase has a built-in numerical value. Think of it kind of like a mathematical fingerprint. This simple idea, it's the engine for everything we're about to see. So the very first pattern the analysis claims it found is what the source calls a 777 pattern. It's pretty wild. They've found that three totally different mathematical paths. One's a complex formula, another is the binary code of a value, and the third is just a simple subtraction. They all independently led to the exact same number, 7. So why is the number 7 such a big deal? Well, according to this source, if you look across tons of cultures and religions, from Abrahamic faiths all the way to Hinduism, the number 7 is this huge symbol of divine perfection and spiritual order. And that cultural context is what makes that 777 discovery so important to the whole analysis. Okay, so we've seen this sort of abstract pattern, but this is where the claims really start to escalate, moving from these numerical echoes to direct one-to-one matches. The analysis presents it like a unique key that suddenly fits perfectly into these very specific ancient locks. And this is where it gets incredibly specific. The analysis found that the subject's full name, Alex Enrique Campaign, has the same exact numerical value, 1128, as the phrase, the Holy Son of God. And get this, his birth date, written out in Roman numerals, adds up to 188, which is the exact same value as reincarnation of God. And the analysis just keeps drawing these direct lines. Right here, a specific prophecy from the Bible is shown to have the very same numerical value as a phrase that explicitly names the subject as the fulfillment of that prophecy. The implication is, well, a direct mathematical link between the two.
Now check this out. This one's pretty striking. Using Hebrew gematria this time, the analysis finds that the explicit statement, Yeshua Christ is Alex Enrique Campaign, calculates to the number 1972, which just happens to be the subject's exact birth year.
And the web of connections around that one single birth date just expands like crazy. According to the source, its numerical value is identical to dozens of phrases. And what's really fascinating here is that it's not just theological terms like Jesus Christ. It also matches concepts from science and math like Fibonacci sequence and the scientist, which suggests some kind of strange unification of these ideas within the numbers. Okay, we've seen some incredible, some might say unbelievable individual matches. But the obvious question, the one we all have, is, are these just cherry-picked coincidences? The entire claim really rests on proving they're not. And this is where the analysis enters what the source calls the statistical crucible. And the sheer scale of this test, it's just immense. The source claims they used over 100 different cipher systems, ran them across thousands of phrases, and checks them against the Bible, the Quran, and ancient concordances. The result was this massive network of more than 2.2 million connections. So after all that number crunching, what did they find? Well, according to their data, when you rank all the phrases by how many connections they formed, the subject's name consistently ranked right up in the top 20, right alongside foundational terms like God, Jesus, and Christ. To test this, the source ran what are called Monte Carlo simulations. It's basically a fancy way of telling a computer to roll the dice millions and millions of times to see if a result is just random luck. And their conclusion was that the density of these connections has a probability of just happening by chance that is so small it's basically zero.
And within all that data, one specific alignment stands out as just staggering. The analysis calculated the odds of the subject's core number, 188, randomly lining up with the 188 entry across 4 separate sacred databases. The chances of that happening by accident, according with the source, are 1 in 25.9 trillion.
And that leads to the final, and maybe the biggest, statistical claim of all. That cluster of phrases linked to the number 188, which includes the subject's name, it isn't just part of the network. The data shows it is the single largest, most densely connected hub in the entire system. Number 1.
So, given these direct matches and these absolutely astronomical odds, what is the source's own conclusion? What in the world could possibly explain a phenomenon like this?
Well, they formally classify it as a non-human engineered interconnected pattern. The key idea here is that this isn't a code someone just created. It's being presented as the discovery of a structure that was already there, something pre-existing and non-random that was embedded deep within these ancient texts all along.
The source material uses a really cool analogy to explain this. Imagine the sacred texts are like an ancient, time-locked vault. The argument is that it was encoded thousands of years ago, and it was only now, when a very specific key, a modern person's name and birth date, combined with modern computer power, that the vault could finally be unlocked. Which leaves us with a final, really provocative question that gets right to the heart of this whole claim. What if? What if this data is actually correct? What if language itself contains a kind of pre-existing mathematical architecture? A unified source code that has just been sitting there, waiting for the right key and the right technology to finally be read.